everyone. I'm so glad to see your smiling faces in the crowd. Are you excited for this next match? If you guys really are excited, we have a small booth over here. You can make some signs. I see you guys down in front have some. MVP next Bonjour, GG. I'd love to see some more in the crowd. Next up, we have First versus vIOLet. You like that? I hope you do. It's going to be another Zerg versus Protoss. Please help me welcome to the stage the Zerg from Azubu, vIOLet. And his opponent from LG, IEM First. Gentlemen, I've been taken back to Pro League days. I'm watching a lot of Protoss versus Zerg. I want to know, did you watch that last matchup? And what did you think of that?
마지막 게임 지켜봤었는지 하고 무슨 생각이 들었어요?
그냥 용화 형이 잘한 것 같아요. 딱히.
You just thought Yonghwa was really good.
Oh yeah, you can pat your buddy on the back there. He did quite well in that matchup. He did 3-0 Ret, but Hwani, I want to know, are you going to change this? Is Zerg going to come behind in this match?
I'm sure you guys know, like, just the last game, like 3-0 against CeBIT, like, you know, Void Ray, Colossus, just killed Zerg. Well, so I kind of surprising and kind of scared, but I tried to my forbidden.
All right, we're going to see how this goes. Gentlemen, please shake hands. Let's get this match underway. I'm going to hand it back to our experts, Jurosar, QXC, and Harstem. It's all you now.
Thank you very much, Rachel. And like vIOLet said, gentlemen, we just saw Zerg get wiped off the face of 3 maps in a row by Protoss. What is vIOLet going to do here to turn that around?
vIOLet 3-2.
Wow. I like it.
I don't.
All right, let's get that out of the way first then, Harstem. Score prediction.
3-2, other way around.
I'm leaning with Harstem. My heart's rooting for vIOLet.
We will see.
My head's leaning with Harstem.
We'll see. I'm really curious. We did see vIOLet. I think possibly the only ZVP we really covered, or at least that I was a part of, was him against Zoc.
Yeah.
And that was a really interesting series. He understood Zoc's opening a lot better than the other Zergs that Zoc played against and reacted quite well. I think his strategic understanding of this matchup is very strong.
Yeah, I think he has a very high understanding of the matchup, and he likes to play it a little bit more aggressive than the foreign Zergs. Korean Zergs in general, also in Wings of Liberty, like to play the matchup a little bit more aggressive with drops and just more aggressive pushes towards the third base. So we might see something like this. I'm not sure, we might actually see some Muta play, but I feel like First is going to use the same build that Yonghwa used every single game.
Well, of course, their teammates, and even in the interviews, like, wow, Yonghwa is really good. So he's going to be looking at those builds, looking at that army composition, and it's obviously not surprising to us at all if he just goes straight for that Colossus Void Ray-centric composition. But what, in an ideal scenario, should vIOLet be doing in response? Was what Ret did correct, just needs to be managed a bit better, or should he be doing something else?
I think the Swarm Host thing that Red was trying to do could work against the composition, but you have to hit quite early. I feel like you need to establish a position on the map a bit earlier than Red did, around 12 minutes even. This way he doesn't have a ton of Void Rays yet, only a few Colossi, and if you can just keep on going at him with the Locust, you eventually will whittle him down, and I think that's what you need to do, or you need to make a big push with Corruptors with it. And then also we saw Slivko do something. I'm not sure if you still remember that, with the Infestor play and just the kind of Wings of Liberty-esque stuff.
Yeah, Slivko was so close.
Infestor, Broodlord, Corruptor. Fungal Growth still very strong against, especially against air units. Now that it is a projectile now, but it's got 2 additional range, so it's a 10 range Fungal Growth, which means you're outranging everything the Protoss army has. And air units tend to clump up, so Fungal Growth may be a good response to Mass Void Ray.
Exactly. I think the one thing that vIOLet has to keep in mind is to not engage Void Rays that are charged. We saw Red do it
in
game 2, I think, on Cloud Kingdom.
Game 2, you're right, yes.
On one occasion he did it, and that fight went very, very well for Red. So, yeah, I feel like if he just disengages the Void Ray the moment he used the prismatic alignment, then I think he will be in good shape. vIOLet has been showing great games, so...
yeah, and I also do think we will be seeing Vipers in this series.
Okay.
We saw vIOLet using them to great effect against Zaka on Metropolis, and vIOLet is no stranger to Heart of the Swarm. He understands how Vipers will improve the power of that Roach Hydra composition by a huge amount. Once you take out the Colossus from the Protoss army, things start swinging in a completely different direction.
Now, would this be a completely separate unit composition to something that was more Swarm host-centric? Because don't forget, a lot of gas is going to be put in to tech up to get those Vipers as well. Or are those Vipers something that you would be able to incorporate into that Swarm host-based army?
I'm not sure that you would use Swarm host perhaps for your first timing. Or sorry, Vipers, just because they are Hive Tech, and again, they're a large gas investment. I think what Rhett was doing with the Hydralisk Swarm Host Corruptor is a good first timing to hit, and then transitioning into Vipers. Because once you add a couple of Vipers and you can pull important units into the Locust, if you pull a Colossus into a group of Locusts, it's dead instantly. Those Locusts do so much damage so quickly.
Yeah, completely agree with that. I think Vipers are not... you can't really use them with Swarmos with the first timing, but when you're on 5 base, 10 extractors, you have a lot of gas. It might be possible as some kind of remax.
All right, well, another PVZ. Will it end the same way? What has vIOLet got up his sleeve against LG IEM's first? His teammate is already in the semifinals. We have a very exciting best of 5 going forward. Throwing it over now to our commentators, we have Kalaris and Todd.
Thanks very much, guys. As we have the next series on the way here. This is the final series in this round, and then we will be down to 4 players. vIOLet and First battling out for that last spot.
Yeah, I talked a little bit about numbers with Apollo earlier, and some very important numbers were mentioned, but the most important one so far was LG IEM against the rest of the world. 20 wins, 1 loss, which was to Reds. But then Yonghua, he got revenge for his teammate first, and he made this score, 21-1. So right now, he first wins. It's going to be 22-1, and then LGIM takes the first 4 places of this tournament, which is going to amount to $60,000 in total.
LGIM making it LGIEM, as for now we will have spawning down to the bottom left-hand corner here, the man who is trying to upset all of that continuity here for LGIM. He goes by the name of Azubu's vIOLet. And spawning up to the top right-hand corner here as our blue Protoss, wanting to make it look like a PvP in the round of 4. Give it up for LGIM first.
And first here, he opens very similarly to what Yonghua did, with the pylon down his ramp, the scout right after. And I wouldn't be surprised if he plays a similar style. There is a very good chance he might do that, but first, you know, he has his own style too. So we saw the Colossi Void Ray composition doing very well in the previous game, but Yonghua, that Stargate opener, all these Phoenixes and this heavy harass is very characteristic to himself. So although first is very capable of doing this as well, we might see him play a little bit differently here.
I have to agree with you. Yonghua has been going for Phoenix play time and time again in Wings of Liberty, has had 1 to 2 years of great practice with that. So it's paramount to understand that Yonghua is one of the most well-versed Phoenix users in the entire world, and that is why he can execute it as well as he did against Rhett. As you said first, he has a lot of tricks up his sleeve, and he could quite easily employ exactly the same thing.
And first here, he's already played differently than Yonghua. I mean, he throws down his Forge at 16, but he's trying to block the expansion, and he's not trying to fight the drone until he loses his shield and then go away. He's blocking it until he's 1 hit away from dying, basically. He's going to throw down the pylon block. Since he's gone for Forge, and behind this, he's going to follow this up with the Nexus. He's going to try to block a little bit more at the 3rd base of vIOLet, as his shield has already regenerated, but he shouldn't be able to do this for much longer. He actually goes for the 2nd pylon before his Nexus. So although he's going to be able to block vIOLet's expansion much longer, he cannot throw down his Nexus for I mean, as soon as he could have otherwise.
Yeah, yeah. It is a little bit delayed here as for now. vIOLet's going to have to clean up these pylons and make this work out. Second pylon does not get cancelled there, so first he's happy to block this off for as long as he possibly can do. But you've got to remember here, guys, is that these are two Intel Extreme Masters champions. vIOLet in Season 6 won Sao Paulo. First has won the most recent Intel Extreme Masters at Katowice. And First, during his entire season, all season long, he's only lost 8 maps. He's won 27. He's won 13 series, and he's only lost 1. So, and that was during the group stages of this tournament. So First is looking phenomenal, but if there's any Zerg that can actually make it onto the round of 4, it's going to be vIOLet.
Yeah, and First, as you said, he only lost 1 series, but it was a series to a Zerg, so he's definitely not unbeatable in this matchup right now. And well, he's just going to go for a gateway behind his Adonis 2 gases, very standard so far. vIOLet doing some very nice scouting with his 1 Zergling in the top left-hand side of the map, as we have a probe hidden at the 12 o'clock position. I think, what, did he already? Yeah, he didn't confirm the hatcheries just yet. First, he's going to have to go back in there, make sure there's a third base, a natural underway, in which case he's going to know he's safe for some time. He doesn't need a second cannon.
And that Zergling has spotted that probe, so for now First will not be able to get away too easily with this probe. He will get confirmation of the 3rd location, which is always quite nice, as he does want that. And will he be able to sneak down to the 2nd? I should think so, but if the Queen just waddles out, he could deny that. But why would there be a Queen in that position if there wasn't going to be a hatchery?
And vIOLet here, he did something very intelligent. Because of all this blocking by First, he had an extra Queen very early on. And he used that to start creep spreading already between his main and his natural. And that's really going to help to get a good lead in this game, as far as vision goes and speed as well.
Yeah, this is one of those maps that if you can get the creep spread going beyond the halfway point, then you can gauge and really, really control the map very, very nicely here. vIOLet hunts down that probe, kills that one off. But first, for now, he has a pylon up to the top right-hand corner, and that is prime position for him to throw down Stargate, Twilight Council if he wants to, but I think I'm leaning more to the Stargate here.
Actually, yeah, it's going to be a Stargate, but he's making a very quick Mothership Core, and I think we might see a quick 3rd here out of First. Although he's already adding the gases at his expansion a little bit later than Yonghwa did, but he made a Zealot, so he had less money. And so far, he's already played very differently to what Yonghwa did. So there is still a possibility we might see a Colossi Void Ray, but this Mothership Core really tells me we might see a quick 3rd here.
Yeah, just using it for photon overcharge with, some gateways there, maybe to wall that off as well. All these things work in tandem very, very well here for First to try and grab that. But at the same time, vIOLet has his Roach Warren on the way just to make sure he's safe against any of these little gateway pokes early on. And then with that, he should be able to stabilize on with the layer now morphing in. And are we going to see some Phoenix? Yes, we are.
Oh, okay. Actually, I was thinking maybe we might see a Void Ray first, but no, he goes for the Phoenix. Very similar to Yonghwa here, and the Mothership Core is actually moving in a position where it might just go into the main, try to do some scouting. I mean, there is really not much to see right now. I was thinking maybe he's going to time war, but now he's starting to regroup with his units, and he might go for the target fire on the Queen at the 3rd with those 2 Stalkers, that Zealots, and that Mothership Core Arcadaris.
And maybe there's a lot of Zerglings there to tank, though, as they now move into the fray, trying to hunt down this small gateway contingent as they try and micro around. There's a little bit of architecture here, which is lending itself very, very nicely to the Zerg Stalkers and that Zealot. Even the Zealot's not dead just yet. Is he going to save the Zealot? If he does, wow, that is pretty impressive control and positioning there by First.
Yeah, he didn't even need to recall because he didn't get surrounded. Very smart move to go behind his minerals. And he needs to start his 3rd before vIOLet start dropping creep. Barely makes it. vIOLet was not looking, sadly for him. And we have a couple spores underway here. vIOLet, he wants to be able to defend against those Phoenixes as they will start picking off on the first Overlord at the 3rd base of First.
And I mean, considering what First has already seen from Yonghwa previously, is this a point where now First grabs himself 3 bases and goes up to more Stargates with Void Rays again? Or do you think First is going to go for something, a little bit different here?
I mean, it really depends on his mood, but considering he's gone for such a quick 3rd, he's going to have to focus on defending now. I think he might not have seen those units headed toward his way right now, and that Nexus is not going to be finished on time for him to be able to use Photon Overcharge. He's going to have to warp units here, but he's only on 1 gate.
This is true. He doesn't have that many Stalkers, but the Cannon and Stalker positioning was very, very good to hold that off. Sentry as well blocking this. So good defenses for now for First, whilst he tries to shock around with these Phoenix. They haven't been that effective just yet, though, as we have the Hydralisk Den as well as double Evolution Chamber on the way for vIOLet. So vIOLet's stabilizing quite well, unless, of course, these Phoenix can actually do some good damage, and they do get one Queen to kick things off.
And First is actually committing a lot to those Phoenixes. He's made 6. We did not end up seeing a big aggression on First's third base. This was a fake by vIOLet with just 4 roaches and couple links. He ended up pulling back as he had to. But vIOLet is going for the double evolution chamber, and I don't know if you heard what Apollo said, but he had a very good point. When you see that double evolution chamber, there is a better chance you might see Vipers as a follow-up for those Hydralisks and Roaches, and I think that's what we might see here out of vIOLet. We've seen him before playing extremely well with those Vipers, doing some very nice abducts against some Protoss opponents.
It's a very acute read. I mean, why would you be committing so heavily to that ground army if you weren't actually going to follow it through with that Hydralisk Den down here? Grooved Spine's now on the way. We assumed from the very start of what we've been seeing here from First that he would end up going for that Robo Bay just to get 1 or 2 Colossi out, and then eventually, I think, transition onto the Stargates even more heavily here, as it's such a strong composition. And vIOLet, well, that's relatively quick infestation pit here, so he might be trying to raise up to those Vipers even quicker than Rhett.
And a couple of Phoenixes here just flew into the main of vIOLet. They were able to kill 1 Hydralisk, but 1 Phoenix died. I wonder if Yonghua facepalmed just then, but First he's going for Colossi range right now. He's getting the armor upgrade for his ground units, and he has a great saturation, to be honest. He's on 71 probes against 70. It was just 72 drones, but he just went to 79. So he's doing very well economically.
And there we go. There's the second Stargate on the way. Void Ray production has already begun. We are going to see that Colossus Void Ray composition that has been oh so deadly here. But vIOLet, in response, he's already got his Hive morphing. First sees this instantaneously. And from that point on, I mean, this is still anybody's game. I think he has to hit before there's too many Void Rays out on the field, because if not, those Void Rays are going to be able to shred up vIOLet pretty easily.
And First is so smart. He sees the Hydralisks, he sees the Roaches. I think he already saw the double Evo, and he went into the main and he made sure there was no Hive started. He knows there is a Hive started, and now he might choose to go for a timing because there is going to be no Corruptors. He has only 1 Colossi. He has to be very careful. He's going to need to force field very well here and not overcommit against this army of vIOLet.
Yeah, you're right. As I said before, you know, vIOLet has to hit the timing, but now First is going to try and hit the timing just before vIOLet can reach his, and it's just a little bit of a bounce around now. But First is actually pulling back here, maybe forcing his opponent into making a few more Roaches than he would have ideally wanted to at that point, as he did move out to the middle of the field, and he even got a few drone kills behind it.
Yep, with his Phoenixes, the army had to be in the middle, had to be ready to receive this army of First, and First is going to keep on doing that. He's moving on to the Watchtower, he's claiming it all the time. He's moving across the map, out of the creep, of course, just making sure that his opponent does not know that First just camps, basically. He's trying to fake an attack all the time. He's only on 2 Stargates, and he has gone for a Twilight Council, so he's going to be able to start +2 very quickly here, as opposed to Yonghua, who stayed 1-1, went for 3 Stargates, and made a lot of Void Rays.
And the 4 Vipers are on the way. The double Evolution Chamber at the front of his opponent's fourth base is going down, so he can sap them of energy, allowing those Vipers to come into the fray a little bit quicker here, as First continues to add on a few gateways. He's still on 3 base, so his economy is not going to be as fantastic here as vIOLet's. But 1 Viper gets picked off there by the Phoenix that he's retained. That is a really, really nice shot there. But 3 Vipers still remain.
And 1 Phoenix does fall. And First is going to play this actually very differently than Yonghua, in the sense that he's going for charge right now. He's getting +2 attack, and he's only making Void Rays from 2 Stargates, and he's made a lot of gates in his main. He's actually going to mass on Stalkers, and I'm not sure whether he's trying to counter the composition of vIOLet, which he knows he's going to have Vipers, or he just thinks it's better than what Yonghua did.
I think that, you know, vIOLet here going for that second Spire really wants to focus on those air upgrades, really wants to try and hunker down on, you know, really, really strong Corruptors or etc. to try and batter down the Void Ray numbers that he assumes are always going to be coming here, as he takes this at 5th, and it looks like he's going to try and put on some pressure at the 3rd. Those Vipers waiting in the wings here to try and push this back. He could focus down the Nexus and take it down, but Time Warp's on the way. He seals all those in with the Force Fields. Colossus gets pulled across as well. That one falls down, but there's still so much firepower here from First. He's going to be able to push this back, but the Nexus goes down. vIOLet cripples some of First's economy, but he's 200 supply to 126. He needs to remax out so fast here.
Yeah, vIOLet's lost so much here. I mean, he went down to 130 supply first. Never really went down to any supply. He was always at 200. He lost almost nothing. He lost that first Colossi from the two abducts. Was able to pull back the other one. But first, he has a lot of Zealots right now. If vIOLet had a lot of spines, it would be good for him. He does not. First, he's going to press forward and try to get the victory as soon as possible in this game.
He needs so many Corruptors out right here, right now. There's 9 Void Rays and 4 Colossi in this mix, as well as a few Phoenix. Against only 9 Corruptors that are coming out just now, he needs more anti-air. Admittedly, he has a lot of Hydras there as well, but they're going to melt so quickly to the Thermal Lances that, well, I like what First is doing as well, limiting some Queen numbers if he can get it, but he's, you know, sacrificing a little bit of the meat shield for those Void Rays.
You know, I can't emphasize enough how much First is hard countering the composition of vIOLet right now. If you go Stalker heavy, your Colossi are going to get abducted and die. So what does he do? He gets charge loss, he gets a ton of them, they run in there, and even if he gets his units abducted, they're going to be the Zealots tanking and right in front of the Colossi anyway. So First, it's just adapting so well to what vIOLet is doing right now, and vIOLet is going to have to do something good here. Something special if he wants to be able to counter this composition of First.
Especially with that Spire going down in his main, that's a little bit catastrophic. Having to rebuild over to another location now, as a little bit of his economy is going to be shredded as well by those blades. But vIOLet's trying to keep First back. He's trying to hit these bases as best he can do, keep him in an economical deficit. But this army of First is moving into position to go for the engagement. The Vipers are actually very, very vulnerable there. One of them almost actually plummets in health. And the Nexus does go down, but vIOLet's entirely trapped. The Time Warp goes down as well as Force Fields, preventing any kind of retreat whatsoever. The Zerg completely melts once again, and Void Rays are on the way for First. He's just becoming too cost efficient.
And vIOLet, he had to remake units in his main here to help defend against the Zealots. And he's only on 59 drones, so he's not even going to have a great capability of remaxing behind this. And this time, I think First he might just march forward and try to finish this game. Every time I've said this so far, he's pulled back and regrouped and made units. But right now, he's just marching towards victory. Oh,
that one Viper, he's actually probably going to die. Poor little fellow. Yes, he does die. And the Warp Prism for now moving into phasing mode. The Hydras will be able to come back and clean that up, so that's quite nice. The Infestation Pit should not go down at this point. But still, First, just poking forwards, bringing back, poking forwards, bringing back. Whilst he establishes his economy and recuperates those losses, is a phenomenal little move for him to do, especially since he could probably win up a straight-up engagement with those 11 Void Rays out right now.
The thing is, he's got so many Templars, man. He's just made 7 Templars. Yeah. They have enough energy for Storm, and now he's going to be nearly maxed. He's going to attack. I mean, what can vIOLet do against Colossus, Storm, Void Ray, Archon, Stalkers?
And with a lot of his Lava, he was making drones as well during all of this. Storm goes down as well as the Time Warp. Will he be able to catch a lot of those units? Yes, he does. 2 more Storms catches them while the Time Warp is affecting even another great Storm outside of the Time Warp. The entire force melts. GG for game number 1. As First takes it with an extremely impressive composition there.
And excellent decisions. You know, his decision making in this game just close to perfect. Always choosing to pull back when he had to, never overcommitting, always playing it safe. And I think that's what makes First such a good late game player. He already was in Wings of Liberty, where it was very hard to deal with that late game Zerg, but now even in Heart of the Swarm, he's transitioned well. He's using some of the new features, and now he just waited for Storms and went for the killing blow on vIOLet.
I can't help but feel here that Zergs have to do something before this late game comes. The Protoss army here in the late game has just not been figured out by the Zergs right now, and they have to deviate. They have to make something different happen.
I agree.
Yeah. Well, guys, I believe we are going to be sending over to our analysis desk to see what happened in game number 1 with Jorasar, QXE, and Harston.
Thank you very much, Kalaris. And that game number 1 did look at the end pretty convincing for First. He obviously saw his teammate Yonghua and went for a very similar late game composition, and it did win him the game. The opening was a little bit different though, and we actually saw First do significantly less damage with his Phoenixes than we saw in the games against Red.
Yeah, vIOLet did a much better job of spreading his creep, not allowing his queens to get picked off. He always kept them next to the Spore Crawler, making it so if you want to kill my queen, you're going to take some significant damage. And the same thing with his Overlords, keeping them close at home.
Yeah, exactly. And one thing he didn't do that we would have liked to see, though, was maybe spreading the Hydras. You even, QXC, you even mentioned maybe some overseers for changelings for some kind of map not really map control, but so that you can see attacks coming.
Yeah.
Just for scouting. I thought that was a good idea. His creep threat was a lot better. First, actually, did a pretty okay job denying the creep as well. So
yeah.
I think vIOLet would have loved to have more creep with the first attack.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. Having that creep is just so strong in allowing you more strategic and positional options when you're making these battles happen.
Yeah, that first attack, vIOLet trying to push into the third base of first before he gets up to his ideal, I suppose, Colossi Void Ray-centric army, but that didn't go too well for him.
Yeah, I think there were two reasons for that. The position wasn't ideal for vIOLet. He was off creep, so it was very hard to disengage the Void Rays. As well, a lot of damage was actually targeted on the Nexus because the Nexus fell down, and the Nexus has a lot of hit points.
Yeah, absolutely. If vIOLet had, instead of targeting the Nexus, perhaps attacked, I think, and when we looked at that battle, 2 Colossus got abducted, and they walked home.
Like with 3 on their...
Right, and I think the main reason for that, one, first was pretty far back, but also vIOLet was focus firing the Nexus, so there were very few units actually targeting something else. And maybe actually vIOLet wasn't focus firing the Nexus. Now that the Nexus can become basically a giant photon cannon, it will have the same attack priority as a regular photon cannon or as other units that you might attack anyway, like Zealot or a Stalker. So maybe vIOLet's army was just in range and happened to be attacking the Nexus.
Okay, so yeah, that's probably something that happened. If he would have been attacking the Nexus, I felt like maybe 2 or 3 blinding clowns next to the Nexus would have been able to just kill the Nexus and go back. But again, when you're not on creep, it's really, really hard to pull back with Hydras. Even with the speed upgrade, it's going to be hard.
For sure. Guys, we're going to be hopping into the replay now to take a look not at that first engagement we were talking about, but around the second engagement where vIOLet pushed in against LGIM First's 4th base.
So I want to point out just a little bit about what's going on here. First does have this one observer, so he should have seen this army moving out. But meanwhile, there's a Warp Prism in vIOLet's main, so vIOLet doing a good job of getting some counterattacking while rallying the next set of units back home. vIOLet decides to avoid the 3rd. Instead, he's going to go deny the 4th. And I'm really curious why first. I guess first maybe expected an attack going at the natural. We can see his positioning there. But vIOLet did a good job of out-positioning his opponent. He was able to get into the 4th and really establish a position here and take it out. But then first closes him off. And while vIOLet's dealing with the Warp Prism at home, we do see one of the Vipers goes down. First pushing in, and vIOLet just reacting a little bit too late. His army not spread out the way it needs to be. The abducts not happening. He throws down Blinding Cloud, but it really doesn't do very much.
And all the Void Rays being charged didn't help either there. Like you mentioned, no concave, not in a really good position, and no way to escape once again.
Yep. Even though I did like that vIOLet implemented Vipers in this game, I didn't really feel like he was using them. It felt a lot like the game that we just saw between Rhett and Yonghua. Roach Hydra against Colossus Void Ray. Yes, he did get 2 abducts off, but they didn't kill the Colossus. And he didn't eliminate the Colossus the way he really needed to make that Roach Hydra composition sufficiently strong to take on what First had.
Well, we have seen already in this tournament, it was part of a highlight reel, vIOLet using abducts very, very well indeed, but not in that particular game. We'll see if he can improve that in game number 2, guys. As we head back over to our commentators, we have Kolaris and Todd.
Thanks very much, guys. Back to the caster's desk here for game number 2, as we now jump into Cloud Kingdom. Yep. And I mean, we were theorizing just during that break there, and I think one of the things that I brought up was the fact that eventually, I think that Zergs are probably going to have to get far quicker hives in order to get up to Viper Tech a lot quicker, try and hit before the Protoss army becomes too stable, and then try and bring out those big units, try and crush during what is effectively the mid-game.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you here. I mean, we've seen Zergs try to hit those timings where they think they can do a lot of damage, but they always end up attacking on the Protoss side of the map. Into their Nexus with Photon Overcharge, never good to do that.
Yeah.
We haven't seen Protosses really attacking. I mean, they just wait for the attack from the Zerg to come. They get a good concave, good positioning. They use Guardian Shields as they do, and in the end, they've been crushing those Zerg's army, attacking into them. So vIOLet, he could try to force the attack to he could try to force the Protoss to attack into him here. If he goes for a very quick hive and then just keeps on injecting, he doesn't have to spend his money immediately. He can have the larvas and you know, some similar style to that.
Indeed, that is very, very true. So, guys, we'll introduce these players as spawning down to the bottom left-hand corner here as our Red Zerg. Currently 1 game down in this best of 5. He goes by the name of a Zubu vIOLet. And spawning up to the top right-hand corner here as the blue Protoss. Currently 1 game up. He goes by the name of LGIM's First.
And First here is going to again open very similarly to in the previous game. He's already taken some shield damage on his probe. He's going to have to be careful. You never want to get hit before the shield can fully recover here. And vIOLet is already chasing that probe all the way around his base. When you see a pool at around 14, you can expect the hatchery to go on at around, say, 230, 245. So now First is going to come back and try to block for as long as he can. And this game is actually going for a Nexus before a Forge. So he's not going to try to block the expansion of his opponent too hard, because otherwise he will delay his Forge for too long for his cannon to come out before the Lynx.
And that was a nice little skirt around the very, very edge of that hatchery going down there for First. Doesn't get the full delay in the end to the point where his probe's only at 5 hit points, but he's back at home. He is fine and dandy, grabbing himself that Nexus, getting that Forge down. Actually, we'll see the second pylon. There we go, as well as the gateway, maybe even before that cannon. So this is a really, really nice economical opening for First. And it's not delayed. Oh, First, you cheeky Yonghua impersonator, you. Well,
you would actually see it with his pool if First moves all the way down there, and I think he might just go for it. Or will he stay behind his
That's
rocks?
risky. That is risky.
Will vIOLet check this corner with his Lynx? There is a very good chance that no, but we saw before some, I think it was Nurture, scouting this position. He knew he was against an LGIM Protoss who does that very often, who had already tricked him in the previous tournament, and vIOLet is not going to check for now.
First, you sneaky, sneaky man, keeping that probe alive. Will it retain its life during a good proportion of this game? As for now, scouts in a little bit, doesn't see a second gas. Hasn't really seen the first one either. And there we go, there's a second gas on the way, but still doesn't see that one. So, but he can assume that those 2 gases are going to be going down eventually. That's the normal Protoss opening. And that probe actually didn't decide to stick around. He just goes in for a little bit of a scout, pokes around. I guess he was making sure that no crazy all-in was coming from vIOLet.
Yeah, and I'm surprised he spoiled his position, but I mean, he just wants to play it safe.
Yeah.
If he had sent out another probe to really confirm that third and natural base, this might have made vIOLet realized exactly what was going on here with a hidden probe hard on the map. He might have been just looking for it, and he might have found it, in which case, I mean, if you're First and you're trying to commit to, say, a 4-gate and +1 aggression, he would have found himself pretty far behind if this had failed. So he's going to play it safe, and we're going to see very soon here exactly what he chooses to go for. I mean, he's gone for the Stargate in the previous game. We saw Yonghua going for Stargate every single time, and actually, First he's taking a 3rd gas just before 6 minutes. If this was Sparting, I would be already saying that we're going to see an Immortal Push. But he's not mining in one of the gases in his main. He's going to start fixing that just now.
Yeah, that wasn't mining for quite a while there. Sends only 2 guys into that. So, and there we go. There's a 3rd on the way. So really either a slight mistake or refining down to a T how much gas he actually needs across these 3 gas geysers. Just for now, as he grabs himself a 4th. And it looks like it's going to be Stargate once again.
And yeah, this time he skipped Zealot. We should be seeing +1 started with his next 100 gas. Most likely he's going for quick 4 gases. And I think First, he's not really a player who ever really does any kind of big all-in on 2 bases. We should see him take a quick 3rd behind this, although he's not made Mothership Core yet. And we have an Overlord entering his main here. Will it be able to see the Stargate? He's headed in the wrong direction, and now it has to go a little bit more towards the way down. But vIOLet, 15 drones production right now. He's going to go up to a lot of drones here.
It's interesting how vIOLet's actually scouting there. He just wanted to check like the very top right-hand corner where everything always gets hidden in a Protoss base on this map. But for now, it's in a little bit of a more different position, and he's not going to be able to spot that. He did not spot it. So this is good positioning here from First, really reacting to his opponent's scouting patterns very well.
He's going to be able to get that Overlord just right above the cliff at his expansion, thanks to the Mothership Core helping spotting this.
Yeah.
And this should, actually, this is not going to supply block vIOLet. He had already made a couple overlords. He's going to be on 73 out of 78. He has to start a couple overlords here shortly if he wants to be able to keep on producing units continuously, as he has a great economy. He's on 63 drones to 48 probes, and we see first starting his third base. He's going to start warning it off with one pylon. We should be seeing a couple gates helping with that in a cannon behind it.
He hasn't actually got a Roach Warren just yet. He's got double evolution chamber actually pumping away some range and melee upgrade, range and carapace upgrades, but no Roach Warren is down, and he's just going to go straight to Hydralisks here as he tries to save one of his queens whilst this pressure goes on at the third. Still poking away, doesn't want to lose that queen, but it's going to die. Oh, well, that's a good pick off there from first, and microing as best he can, but speed's going to finish up in a little bit, so technically these Stalkers should always die. Yeah,
especially with no Mothership Core around to be able to recall. First, it kind of looks like he was scouting a potential force base of vIOLet on the left, but I mean, if he had had his Mothership Core with his Stalkers here, he would have been able to save all of them. Now he should be losing all of them, and losing this many Stalkers early on in the game is never good. 4 Phoenixes now on the way to start the harass. First going for the Robo behind this, he's going to add a couple extra gates. And look at the wall at his third.
I actually think I like what vIOLet's doing here. He's going up to a lot of Hydralisks pretty darn quickly here with 1-1 and Groove Spines. And if he actually starts hitting it in a more mid-game centric style, then I think that should be able to maybe even deny this third for quite a long time. And then first will never have the economy he really requires to actually boost up to that very, very strong composition. But for now, he's putting on some great Phoenix harassment here, killing off a lot of gas mining drones. And that is really going to hinder that production here for vIOLet in this mid-game.
And vIOLet is looking to put on some aggression onto this third base of first. First, he already has enough energy for a photon overcharge, so vIOLet is going to start a fourth. But I mean, he's made a lot of Hydralisks here. He's moved across the map. He hasn't tried to really defend against those Phoenixes, so they were able to get a couple kills, 7 drones in total, which is definitely less than we've seen from those Phoenixes in the previous games. But I think we might see a small attack here by vIOLet, maybe try to snipe the Nexus if the units of first are out of position, which they are right now.
Yeah, and during all this, first has no idea that his opponent has Hydras. I think he's just going to spot them now. That is the first time he's really been able to actually spot that, as he hasn't spotted the Hydralisk Den just before, so this is going to come as quite a surprise to him. His Robo Bay is only just about to finish up. He's not going to have any Colossi to really, really help this. 2-2 starts during all of this as well. The Infestation Pit's going down. I think vIOLet, if he can deny this third base, he actually is going to be in a great spot to transition on as he piles on a lot of pressure. That Nexus with Photon Overcharge is doing a lot of damage to the Hydras, but there's too many Hydras here. The Phoenix trying desperately to pick them up. The Force Field's actually working against that gateway composition. They can't close. The Nexus goes down, and vIOLet with a great little play here.
And I actually think this is not so bad for first, because he's only lost the Nexus here. He's only lost 400. He's on 74 probes to 67 drones. So although he might lose it again, behind this, he can just make a lot of units, hold this, and be in a very decent position with those Phoenixes.
But the thing is that vIOLet has bought himself enough time to get his Hive now out. He's going to have Vipers far quicker in comparison to his opponent from game number 1 with that composition. And if he can strike a second time before his opponent's army gathers full momentum, I think vIOLet is going to be in a great spot eventually.
And true, and I totally agree with you actually. vIOLet, he has had a brilliant read here as he does engage one more time. I should pull back here. I mean, he's already done a lot of damage. Oh, actually, no cancel on that Nexus.
vIOLet moves forwards and forwards here. As the Roach One's going down behind this, he wants something to be able to tank for those Hydralisks eventually. Gateway units alone are not going to be able to cut it against the Hydras, but now that the Colossi are out, he has to fall back. The Hydralisks, they're not going to be wanting to be sitting around there for too long, but he's actually just going to go straight for the trade here. Oh, that Colossus actually might go down. First needs to micro that back. He just barely saves it as the Gateway units tank the rest of the damage. Oh, the Colossus, he still needs to be very, very careful. He's chasing him down. Well, okay, he's going to... The Zerglings! The Zerglings! Oh! The last 2 Zerglings get the Colossus! And vIOLet kills off a big, big chunk of tech there.
And vIOLet is the swarm right now. He keeps on sending units in. He was able to cancel that Nexus, well, kill it once, get some cancel, and then kill it again before it could get cancelled. So he's actually going to be in a great position. And I liked how at first he didn't commit to this. He started remaking drones. He brought himself up to 70-something drones. But behind this, he saw he had an opening. He saw that first wasn't reacting well enough to defend this. I mean, first he has a lot of gates in his main. He could have just made a big warp of Zealots, used some time warp, and defended well. But his defense was just not good enough here. And vIOLet is going to pull very far ahead. Right now he's on 4 bases. He has level 3 missile attacks on the way. He's going to get some Vipers, and he should be able to chase those Stalkers away as he's starting to make some Colossi, some remakes, to remake some Colossi. He's going to get his second here in a second. He has +3 attack on the way. But I mean, vIOLet, his economical advantage right now is just too big. He's on 2,200 income.
And vIOLet's playing this very, very well here in game number 2. He's adapted so quickly from game number 1 to realize that he could not do exactly the same thing in game number 1. He had to pile on the pressure early to cripple a little bit of First's economy. And from that point on, I mean, he's crippled his tech as well. +3 weapons is on the way, but do we see any Void Rays in production at this point in the 15-minute mark? No, we do not. And with that, vIOLet with these Vipers should be able to decimate those 2 Colossi very, very quickly, probably 3 when it actually comes along. And then the Roach Hydra composition is going to be great against just pure Gateway.
I think first we just played old school here with a lot of Stalkers, some Colossi, and he's getting charged, so he's going to be getting a lot of Zealots. And we have a pylon on the bottom right-hand side of the map. I think he's going to warp a couple Zealots, send them into the 3rd and 4th base of vIOLet, try to do some harass while he tries to defend his 3rd base with the Photon Overcharge and some great positioning.
Fully agree. He has to buy time here, basically. vIOLet's maxing out. Thirst is only at 152 supply here. As it looks like vIOLet's just going to go for it from every single angle. There goes the pull. One of the Colossus goes down. Second pull as well. Second Colossus disintegrates. The 3rd Colossus is under pressure as well. He has to warp in a lot of Gateway units, but that one falls as well. The Blink Stalkers are all that's left, but the Hydras rip up everything here. 100 supply up. vIOLet is looking for victory. GG! Game number 2 goes to the Zerg. And it's tied up 1-1.
And great timing here by vIOLet. He hit just before charge finished. First did not have time to make enough units. He was out. He got flanked from 2 sides. That was a perfect flank by vIOLet, and that's exactly what he needed. Some pressure early on before First can assemble the perfect army and just finish it from there.
And well, that is going to do it for game number 2, guys. vIOLet tying things up. Playing very, very... This is how I feel Zerg has to play in Heart of the Swamp. They have to do this. Otherwise, Protoss is going to crush them in the late game. But I would love to hear what our analysis desk has to say for game number 2 with QXE, Harstem, and Jorisar.
Thank you very much, Kalaris. And vIOLet tying things up, doing what Zerg so far haven't been able to do in this tournament in the bracket stage. And he ties up the series 1-1 against First. What an incredible game.
To be fair, we still haven't seen vIOLet defeat Colossus Void Ray.
That's true. We might get to see that, though. Wouldn't that be awesome?
vIOLet did a really good job that game of recognizing when and where First would be vulnerable and exploiting that with that powerful Hydralisk timing.
Yeah, First did the same build he did last game, which is Stargate into 1 gate into a 3rd. Or, I mean, 1 gate, Stargate into a 3rd.
Yep.
This time, however, he wanted to follow it up a little bit differently. As we saw, he put down 8 gates in total. He went for +3 and Blink. So it felt like he wanted to do a 3-base timing with Colossi, Blink, and +2, I felt like. He wanted to hit that timing, but before +2 was finished, his Nexus was down already.
Well, all the money went into the gateways as the Hydralisk attack was going in at the 3rd. That was pretty much the sweet spot for vIOLet in terms of trying to snipe that base off, and he did it.
One thing that I thought was really interesting here that's a bit different from what we saw because of vIOLet's really good creep spread, and we can go into the replay. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to go to just before the Hydralisk timing, so right here.
Yep.
I want you to take a look at vIOLet's creep spread on this map, and we'll look at vIOLet's vision. Look at how far into the center of the map vIOLet has control. So this is significant because as First is doing his Phoenix harassment, if he goes to this base and then disappears off into this direction, if he wants to reappear at the natural without being seen, he has to go all the way around like this. And that makes it much harder for First to maintain his Phoenix presence on the map in a way that vIOLet won't be aware of. And that's significant because that is part of what allows vIOLet to move his units across the map without being detected. As long as vIOLet has relatively good vision outside of his base, he can see where the Phoenixes are, and then he can maneuver his Hydralisk and his Zerglings in a way so that he first never sees the Hydralisk come until they're almost already at his base.
Exactly, and if this push would have been scouted, I think it would have been very different. First would have built a few sentries, stalled until the first Colossi, and the moment the first Colossi is out with the Mothership Core cannon on the Nexus, it's going to be really hard to take down the Nexus like what happened now.
Yeah, and definitely could have added a couple more cannons, but we do want to show the final battle here, some excellent abduct usage, allowing vIOLet to seal this game.
And this is something, of course, that we were maybe hoping to see in previous games, but weren't quite able to get there. So vIOLet really showing us how the skill can and should be used here.
Yeah. I felt like his engagement wasn't the way he really wanted it. He wanted to wait a little bit more. His flank wasn't really ready yet, but on the other hand, he did get a free Colossus with his flank as well, and then the two abducts, killing two Colossi immediately. That's just the way you want to start a battle.
Yeah. Very good positioning and maneuvering by vIOLet. Hope to see more of this type of play in these upcoming games.
Yeah, completely agree.
So hope is alive, ladies and gentlemen, for the Zergs here at the Intel Extreme Masters World Championship. We were talking during the game about how, oh, maybe you're not so sure, but after seeing that final engagement, QXC, vIOLet to win it.
Is that what I said originally?
Yeah.
You said vIOLet to win it originally, then during the game off camera, we were like, oh, I'm not so sure.
Yeah, I'll stay with what I said.
Stay with vIOLet.
Cannon rush, dinner?
He's not going to cannon rush.
All right, I'll take that bet.
Okay.
Dinner? Oh, it's on camera now as well. So if a cannon rush happens, who buys who dinner?
Dinner's like free anyway. So
I buy him dinner.
You buy him dinner?
If there's no cannon rush, he buys me dinner.
Okay. Let's
no. That's not how bet works.
We'll see what happens, guys. We're going to jump into game number 3 now. The map is Entombed Valley. We're going to throw it over to Kalaris and Todd.
Thanks very much, guys. Game number 3, Entombed Valley, will be a very, very pivotal match here for First and vIOLet. The first player to take that 2-1 lead here is going to be sitting pretty and has great, great chances to advance on to the round of 4. Will First be able to complete the Quadra for LGIM, or will vIOLet disrupt the balance?
And we were talking about this during the break. First, he definitely didn't use the Phoenixes as well as Yonghua did, and vIOLet defended a lot better than the other Zergs did, so in the end it went in his favor.
We'll see how it goes here. Loading up and good to go as for now. Spawning down to the bottom right-hand corner here. The Surgeon Zerg, the Red Zerg. Give it up for Azubu vIOLet. And spawning up to the top left as our LGIM Protoss. As the blue Protoss. Give it up for First.
And the first thing I notice here is that First, he doesn't know that it's only cross map, so he's going to scout in the bottom left-hand side. But coming back to those Phoenixes, it was very important. Oh, he's actually turning around. Whoa.
Cheeky, cheeky.
Could we see something crazy? Coming back to what the analysis desk and what I mentioned earlier about the Phoenixes and the way vIOLet countered them, he decided to just counterattack, to let those units deal the damage they had to deal.
He's going straight to the... oh, okay. Sorry, he was just scooting around the Overlord. Continue.
Yeah, he just decided to let those Phoenixes do their damage onto the drones, basically, and just to counterattack with those Hydralisk. And from there, do a very good job of getting the kill on the Nexus, getting a cancel twice, getting another kill. And from there, vIOLet, he already knew he just had to hit a timing, so he ended up hitting a big timing at 16 minutes, 40 seconds with the maxed army Zerg against a 140 supply Protoss, in which case it's almost every single time you're going to lose as a Protoss unless you can get a great concave. But at this time, vIOLet flanking from two sides, it was enough.
I really do think that vIOLet here should be sticking to a similar style. But at the same time, that kind of style on Entombed Valley isn't the most effective. Actually, the third base here for Protoss is much, much easier to defend. And with that, First might have a very, very nice path transitioning onto that late game a lot easier.
And vIOLet here, he got pretty tired of having his natural blocked, so he sent 2 drones. And I think First had no intention of setting a pylon down there because he went for Nexus first, followed by Forge, followed by another pylon. As QXC owes Harstem a dinner, we should see First adding on 2 gases here and transitioning into a pretty standard game. And actually, on this map, it's interesting to note, we might see a very quick third. I mean, it's Entombed Valley. We just saw Yonghua against Red. He went for the cannon rush. It wasn't really a real game, you know, as you can call it. But first, he's going to start his cannon now. He should have it on time before the links can get there. And vIOLet is going to start placing his overlords around the map. You see he has his second overlord queued toward the third base of first.
Sneaky, sneaky probe. It's not a common place to actually hide that probe there for first, but for now, just completing his wall off. 2 hatcheries on the way for vIOLet. Very, very standard, whilst the Zerglings check every little extremity of these bases, making sure that there's no probes hidden, but lo and behold, that probe in the bush.
Yeah, there is a good chance he might not see it. I mean, it's out of the range of that watchtower in the middle. Oh, and we have a Ling. He's actually rallied somewhere else, so if he goes now near the third and the Ling misses it, he might be able to cannon rush, so QXC might turn himself a dinner here.
No, he's actually I think he's going to do it. He's going to see it and he's going to be like, oh, hello. Well then, is he going to go? He's not going to go. He just wants confirmation. QXC, no!
In the meantime, first has been only chrono boosting probes at this point in the game. He's going to get his first Zealot. He started it a little bit late, so as his cybernetic score finish, he's going to have to wait a little bit of time before he can finally start his Stalker, unless he cancels the Zealot. Are we going to see +1? Are we going to see a Stargate? We are going to find out here in a second.
That Zergling actually went in vision of that probe, but did not turn around to go for the attack. As for now, that probe still chills on out. 8 drones on the way here, as well as the Stargate now going down for first, so he knows exactly what he wants to do. Fully enough, a Zergling actually poking up that ramp could see that Stargate, but I think first is assuming that that isn't really gonna, well, it depends if it's gonna happen or not, because the cannon's there to kill it off.
From one Ling, you don't usually ever see that, except when Stefano's 6 Spider Sense kicks in, and maybe it was actually a couple Lings. So first he starts +1 behind this. vIOLet right now is going to start adding 2 gases. His choice seems to be usually with the gases at the expansion instead of the main.
Yeah.
You know why?
Is it indeed to make it look like he might be on 4 gas geysers? Those are easier to scout, and those are harder ones to scout, so yeah.
It could be for that, but also he keeps 16 drones in his main, and then he transfers everything to the expansion with the rally point, so he's going to have a lot of drones there. And we had first clear his third, and that really tells me that he's going to want to maybe go for a very quick third here. Sometimes there's going to be an overlord close to be in position here to drop some creep. There's going to be some Ling. He cleared it very quickly. If we see a probe head down there, I think he's going to take the quick third.
Yeah. Spots the Phoenix with an overlord. Meanwhile, the other overlord spotted that there wasn't really much gas mining going on in his opponent's main, so this might either be, well, a lot of gateways, or could even be a relatively quick third here. First, vIOLet still needs to scout out 1 or 2 little eventualities to really know what's fully going on.
And first, he actually has a lot of energy on his main Nexus right now. He's only spending that energy on his Phoenixes. He has enough energy to chrono boost something else. He does not really need to chrono boost +1, but I mean, you might as well use a little bit of it if you're not going to be using it for anything else than just one building, and you don't have Robo yet, so...
Yeah. Well, this Ling does just barely see the edge of that pylon actually warping in. He needs to kill that off pretty quickly, otherwise he's going to be hit by 4-gate pressure with +1, whilst the Phoenix actually go for some harassment as well. Those 2 things in tandem work very, very strongly to stretch vIOLet thin and stretch all of his defenses for, you know, dynamics that are completely wildly different. Spore crawlers for the air, but trying to defend from Zealots as well can be difficult.
And this should not be able to do any real damage here, as we have vIOLet pumping out a lot of Zerglings right now. We are going to have Zealots with +1 trying to deal with those, but vIOLet very smartly so puts down 2 Spine Crawlers at his third base. I think we might see first going to the natural because of this. Yeah,
there's actually nothing there. Not only that, but the rocks are not broken down as well, so that is going to hinder vIOLet in terms of reinforcements, but the pylon is almost guaranteed to die if he'd have actually stayed in there. He would have lost a lot of Lings, but the pylon would have died. But there is still backup pylons there, so it wouldn't have mattered too much.
26 Zerglings are on the way here. Speed is about to finish. He's up to 38 Zerglings. He's just going to flank this army and even get the Stalkers.
Yeah, Speed's just about to kick in there, and there it goes. He's trying to hunt down those Stalkers, and those will die in the middle of the map, whilst the Zealots are still alive and kicking, but they're not really going to do that much against that amount of Zerglings, especially now with 11 Hydralisks on the way. vIOLet is playing a very, very similar tech style to what we saw in game number 2. But first, I mean, he's still piling on the pressure, and he's got his third going down behind this, which is going to be much harder for vIOLet to break.
And vIOLet, he has fallen to 55 drones, so actually 53, 52 now that those Phoenixes choose to make my life more difficult. He has very little drones. He's not droning behind this. I think we might see a big timing with lots of Hydralists. As vIOLet anticipates, there might be a third out of first here.
Yeah, there's drones on the way as well here, but I mean, he could quite easily push, try and break something down. There's a lot of gateways actually down already here for first, so he does have the option to actually reinforce here. Phoenix just going to come and pick one off one of 2 Hydras. A very, very nice little play here from first, just limiting that, and he actually pulled the Hydralisks back for quite a long time. And he even forced the retreat.
If this hadn't happened, I think vIOLet would have went forward and really tried to put some pressure on the wall of that third of first. But now he's lost a couple of Hydralisks. He's come back. He's going to be regrouping with the rest of his units, and actually he's moving out even though he's not making any more units. He has muscular augments on the way. Those Hydralisks are going to have speed granted to them outside of the creep. Spire and Infestation Pit are being added. 8 more drones on the way, and vIOLet is going into full macro mode with the Force on the way as well.
Yeah, that Infestation Pit. Wait, did it cancel or did it finish? But anyway, yes, it finished. So he can easily transition onto Hive Tech pretty fast here just to continue what we were seeing from game number 2. But again, it's still going to be really, really hard to break first. First is so well entrenched across those 3 bases. And right now it feels that that's very, very strong there for Protoss.
And vIOLet, he has a Spire on the way. He's saving up a lot of gas. I think we might see a big Muta transition here. vIOLet is one of those players who can play very aggressive. He takes switches all the times. And in Heart of the Swarm, he's really going to be rewarded by this because there's so many choices to pick from, and he can really punish an opponent who plays a certain style. I think vIOLet is anticipating the Void Ray Colossi style, which is going to be not very good against Mutas, let's just say it.
Yeah, mass Mutalisks against someone that does not have Templar Archives is going to be very, very strong. Another Stargate starts, but vIOLet first needs to sniff this out very, very quickly so that he can start even potentially the Fleet Beacon. He actually spots the Spire there. He didn't spot the Hive morphing in, so this could tip him off. And he might start Phoenix production at some point, but for now he's going for Void Rays.
But the Hive is not morphing, just...
Yeah, not morphing.
Oh, yeah. I thought you thought it was more. Never mind.
No.
First reflex was to make a second Stargate, and we should be seeing a lot of Phoenixes. The problem is, look at the units he has right now to counter those Mutas. He has 4 Phoenixes, 5 Sentries. He's going to be able to use Photon Overcharge, 2 Stalkers, 1 Void Ray. It's not that great, especially considering the fact the Mutas, they can fly into the third base, force a Photon Overcharge to be used, and then fly into the main and then start doing damage onto those probes. In the meantime, those units outside, the Hydralisks, the Zerglings, they're going to be looking to find a breach somewhere if the units are out of position to try to get in there and do some damage. But actually, vIOLet is a little bit scared here. He's going to wait for now. He's going to fly around. He's really going to try to find somewhere he can inflict damage. But first, seems to be getting more and more ready every second here for those Mutas.
There's Phoenix actually moving into the fray now whilst the Mutas try and poke at this position, but not going to work out just yet. I think, well, with 10 more Mutalisks on the way, vIOLet's army is accruing quite nicely behind this, but looking at what we're seeing from first right now, because he didn't have his Twilight Council down so early, and his ground upgrades are very, very slim. They're not really there. So Phoenix is actually a really good use for this, especially with Anion Pulse Crystals now on the way as well for those Phoenix. But the second Spire's on the way, so vIOLet is going to be committing heavily here to those upgrades on those Mutas. And if he just accrues like 50 of them, it just becomes really hard to deal with regardless of what you've got.
The thing is, first he's going to start Anion Pulse Crystals here in a second.
Yeah.
He has a bunch of Colossus which are not really going to help against those Mutas. There is a lot of Mutas. That's the moment vIOLet will try to inflict damage on the third here. But will first have enough Phoenixes to deal with this? Will he have range on time? He should be able to, but I mean, if this does enough damage, killed about 30 probes, vIOLet might be in a good position.
A lot of Zerglings are going to die off there, as well as the Hydralisks taking a little bit of damage as well. In fact, just getting absolutely roasted. But I think vIOLet doesn't really care at this point. He just wants to trade those away and then just keep his opponent in the middle of his bases so that he can just hold him back, grab himself that Hive. And again, the Mutalist doing great harassment here, really forcing him to, he's actually just going to continue through the middle of the map.
vIOLet right now is making a ton of Spinecrawlers. He's going to be counterattacked. And first, he's doing this so right. He has all of his units in Group 1. His Phoenixes in Group 2. He's going to attack with his Group 1. And from there, his Phoenixes, they only need to follow the Mutas everywhere they go. And there will be no counter against this by vIOLet. I mean, he has a bunch of Spinecrawlers, but look at the amount of Zealots, Colossi, There is.
Yeah, and you know what? I mean, vIOLet has one Ling on the ground. That's it. Nothing else. Everything in his army is in those Mutalisks, in those Corruptors on the way. vIOLet is in a world of trouble right now as First is making some great decisions here, really ripping up his opponent's fourth. And vIOLet, even being harassed at this fifth location as well, vIOLet's economy is going to plummet very soon. And there's no way First can actually engage this. The Phoenix have zoned him out beautifully.
And First has diminished the Muta count enough for those Mutas not to be able to counterattack. Now he's just going to go for the big fight, which vIOLet should not have enough to win.
Yeah, vIOLet's here. I mean, these Phoenix can dance around all day long. There's not really that many Corruptors left over. If those go down, the Mutalisks are going to be free pickings here. 4 Corruptors left over. A few more actually rendezvousing with this army in just a little bit, but I don't think it's going to be quick enough. They've done the damage. The ground army has done the damage. He's killed off 3 bases in quick succession. Even if these Colossus die now, it's not really going to matter, as First behind this has 3 bases up and running.
Yeah, vIOLet actually ends up holding, surprisingly enough, those Corruptors tanked enough damage for the Mutas to stay alive and kill everything, but First is actually going to fly in there here, as we have only 3 Corruptors left, and I think those Phoenixes have had enough. They're just going to try to steal the lead. And, well, First, he's going for a force here. We have vIOLet on 2 bases. I mean, he's just so far behind right now, although the supply is even.
Yeah. Well, vIOLet has to expand everywhere. First, admittedly, has to take his 4th base. He's already getting a lot more Phoenix as well here, though, as well as he's also teched up behind this quite nicely. 2 High Templars, morphing in some Archons, but it's only 41 workers to 71. So right now, First has found himself a great little foothold on this map. It's not by any means over just yet, but First certainly has that 70–75% chance of taking this home right now.
And what would you do here? If you were First, you have a lot of Phoenixes, you're facing Mutas and Corruptors, you know your opponent cannot really take switch out of this. What composition will you go for?
For vIOLet?
No, for First.
Oh, for First? Well, I guess just if your opponent is going to be making a lot of Corruptors, I mean, Void Rays wouldn't be too bad an option in turn to deal with those, when then eventually come in and try and take out the Mutalisks. But it's going to be a really weird air dance.
And I think we think alike, because I would throw down a 3rd, maybe even a 4th target here, and go for a couple of Void Rays to really help against those Corruptors. In which case, in the fight, you just need to activate the Void Ray ability and then target fire those Mutas with those Phoenixes. And you finally will have something against those Corruptors. I mean, he's trying to go for ground to counter them, but actually, it looks like First is transitioning into Templars right now. He's going to get Storm, he's going to get level 3 ground weapons. So we should see a lot of Stalkers or Zealots. Maybe some Zealot Archon combination here to really take on those Mutas.
I really don't mind this too much, because in theory, if you kill off all the Mutalisks and all he's got is Corruptors left, then you really can't do too much with the Corruptors alone. Not only that, but he actually, you know, he does have his Hive done, but he doesn't have a great Aspire, so he couldn't really morph any other Broodlords either.
We have a War Prism on the way to the main of vIOLet on the right-hand side of the map, and actually those Mutas, they spotted it immediately. Yep. Nicely done by vIOLet. This should not really do any damage, really. Should not be able to kill anything. Maybe a couple drones here at those gases, and the Phoenix, they get into position to do some damage here. Maybe they don't care about 2 Spore Quarters. They're going to fly in there, snipe a couple drones, and then pull back.
When you say snipe a couple, they could easily snipe the entire line here, but they grab about 5, just get straight on out. 1 left alone saying, thank you very much for leaving me to my minerals. Storm will finish up. +3 weapons is on the way. So those upgrades eventually caught up here for First, as he was a little bit lackluster at the very beginning of the game, but he's throwing down a 5th Nexus. He has all the tools at his disposal here to take on a very strong air army, but really no ground at all for vIOLet.
He now has a couple Archons, he has some Templars. We're about to see an engagement, and vIOLet, he really doesn't have an army that can deal with First army well at all. We have +3 on the way, Blink now as well. And I think First is just going to want to attack and maybe end this. Every time I say this, it's pulled back so far, but maybe for once.
Well, First, I mean, he has the composition here to be able to crush these bases. It looks like vIOLet is going to be forced into some kind of base trade scenario here. He can't engage this army straight on up, so he's going to fly around, try and find something to deal damage to. He's got +3, +2 on the way, but it's not finished just yet, whilst he tries to crush as many of these pylons that are powering the cannons. Actually, only 2 pylons in total powering all those cannons means they go down very quickly. I think he's actually sending High Templars back to try and deal with that as well here. They're a little bit indecisive as the Phoenix are on the way as well. This is up in the air, but First still has a really strong army.
And First, it looked like he didn't know what to choose here. He's actually going to send a couple of Zealots in vIOLet's 3rd to really wreck his economy. He wasn't careful. Those Zealots are going to run into some Spine Crawlers here. And, well, he's lost his force base. vIOLet, he has to go away here. He cannot fight.
Well, the thing is, vIOLet's got no economy right now, whereas First does. vIOLet is mining off very, very slim pickings here, whilst we have First slowly but surely cornering his opponent's army. Those Phoenix should be able to deter his opponent from actually retreating on out, but he's getting such good free pot shots off on these Corruptors, but they have great armor upgrades, and against Phoenix, that is fantastic here for those Corruptors to stay alive for a very, very long time.
Wow, and First blink, the second it finished, it blinks forward. He's going to be able to get a couple of those Corruptors. He hasn't landed any Storm just yet. vIOLet is doing a very good job of staying out of this, but this means he's never going to be able to engage ever.
The Phoenix still doing a very, very good job of engaging this entire army. Again, Corruptors have to stop to fire whilst Phoenix can just keep shooting whilst moving. It gives them just, they both have the same range, but it gives the Phoenix a brilliant advantage over the Corruptors. As for now, Mutalisk trying to fly on in. Photon Overcharge on that Nexus will push this air army back for now. vIOLet is trying desperately to find a little hole in his opponent's defenses, but I don't think he's going to find it.
Yeah, and vIOLet behind this, as you said, he has no economy. I mean, he's on 44 drones. He has nearly no minerals left in his expansion. He's not mining from any other base. He can barely make an extra hatchery here, which he will try to make on his third, but there is a couple of Zealots ready to say no to him.
Yeah, those Zealots very, very happy to oblige that poor little drone moving into the fray and will end up dying off. Oh, no, he's going to get away, actually. Those spines will help him out, so that's quite nice for him. But during all of that, still up in the north of part of the map, we do have that air armada for the Zerg, still trying to find a good spot. Storm goes down slightly with his, as he's still just keeping those High Templar there. The Mutalisks can't go forward, but they're spreading themselves out now a little bit. Going to try and push forwards. First, he is still putting on some pressure, trying to go for a little bit of a counterattack himself, whilst these High Templars are just trying to zone out as best they can.
First has had enough here. He's just going to press through. He has too much army to be able to lose to anything. He's going to leave a couple Templars ready to defend at his force base. And, I mean, vIOLet, there is not much he can do now. He's going to try to come back and defend against this, but he's only got a couple of Mutas, 26 Mutas against Templars, Stalkers, and Archons.
Everything under assault. The Archons completely obliterate a few of those Corruptors in the air whilst he blinks under the Mutalisks. They will be able to take out a lot of these Stalkers by the looks of things, but they don't want to clump up too much, otherwise those Archons are going to have full free reign over them. And he does get quite a lot of volleys off, but that's going to do it. GG for game number 3. First goes 2-1.
Very well done. He didn't even bring his Templars in the last fight.
No, he was just like, I'll leave this at the 4th. It's fine, it's fine. Good stuff there by First. Really good decision-making from him, considering a difficult composition that he was going up against. And he was not only very, very decisive with the decision-making, but he was also very patient. It can be too easy sometimes when you're going up against Mutalisks to say, charge across the other side of the map and hope for the best. But against Mutalisks, sometimes, you know, you just got to play it out. You just got to defend and be happy.
And I like what you said about his patience. I was actually looking for a stage name for First, and I think we have it. The Patient Protoss.
Oh, the Patient Protoss indeed. So guys, we are going to send it over to the analysis desk with QXE, Harstem, and Jurasar.
Thank you very much for that, commentators. And First takes a 2-1 lead there over vIOLet. What an enthralling game we had there on Entomb Valley. I mean, it was drawn out towards the end for quite some time. vIOLet trying to do what he could with his mutas, but in the end it wasn't enough.
I really like the openings from both players. First opening up with a very strong cannon rush. vIOLet, of course, defending it quite well and transitioning into the mid and late game. But we're going to talk a little bit about vIOLet's choice to go into that Mutalisk tech switch.
We are indeed. In fact, we're going to be hopping into the replay, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be around about the 13-minute 30 mark, so we're close to being able to hop over there right now. And
coming up soon.
Yep, and that was really the point in the game where First finally scouted that the Mutalisks were on their way to his base.
Yeah, we do see First Phoenixes kind of flying around here. And this is really the key moment in the game. When you decide to go into this Mutalisk tech switch, it's incredibly important. Oh, sorry, First hasn't scouted the Mutalisk yet.
Not yet, not at this point. Not at this point.
When you do this Mutalisk tech switch, it's incredibly important that you conceal it for as long as possible. If we take a look at the game state right now, notice where First cannons are. The whole mineral line is completely exposed at every single base. Not only that, but when we look at the units tab, this is not an army that can fight 14 Mutalisks, 2 Stalkers, 1 Void Ray, 4 Phoenixes. That's it. And also 5 Sentries. Guardian Shield, useful, but not useful enough. So when vIOLet decided to go into this Mutalisk tech switch, what he really needed to do, he did a good job of not revealing them to the scouting Phoenixes.
Yep.
But then these units, the units that First already knows that vIOLet has, needed to clear, basically blaze a trail in the direction that vIOLet wanted to bring his mutas. This is where the Ling should have gone, all the way up, making sure that there is nothing Protoss here, so that the mutas, the first time First will see the mutas, would be here. At which point there is no way to respond quickly enough to not take severe economic losses.
Exactly, and we do see vIOLet flying over with the mutas, and it's a bit lucky from First, but this is also something good players do. They have pylons across the map, and I feel like vIOLet should have expected this. Sometimes there's a pylon, sometimes there's a probe or a hallucination, and well, this time it was a pylon. It did get cancelled, but by now it's too late. And if we take a look at the production tab, First immediately starts with Phoenix production. If those two would have been Void Rays, which are not useful at all against Phoenix, like they can attack them, but they don't actually kill Phoenix.
Now, was it correct here for vIOLet, upon having the mutas scouted, to move back there? Could he have still gone in and did some damage?
Let's go back real quick here, and we're going to look at basically the reaction here from First when he realizes it's Mutalisk. So we do see right now, and just take a look at the production tab in the next moment. So cannons going down, double Phoenix production starting, Twilight Council, more cannons, and all of this is fortifying this base, adding additional gateways to pump out more Stalkers, making those Phoenixes, adding that Fleet Beacon, adding the Twilight Council for Blink. All of this is extremely important to making that defense against those Mutalisks possible, and vIOLet is just not, he just waits almost a full minute before he reveals that he has the Mutalisk, and by this point, it's too late. Once you cannot engage Phoenixes over cannons like this, he did not have the Mutalisk advantage he needed.
Exactly, and now all First really has to do is stall until the Any Impulse crystals are done, and he is in great shape. After this, we talked about this off camera. It felt like vIOLet really couldn't be making only mutas. After he saw that it was a lot of Phoenix, he saw 7 or 8 Phoenix at this point, 14, 15 minutes into the game, and he started building 7 more mutas. I think that was another mistake that he made.
Yeah, vIOLet really didn't seem aware of how the relationship would change between those Phoenix and Mutalisk once the Anion Crystal upgrade was finished, or he wasn't aware that the upgrade would finish so soon. He needed to either transition out of Mutalisk completely or add some additional units to his composition to make it effective against those 7-range Phoenixes.
Exactly, and that could have been Infestors, could have been Corruptors.
Yeah, there's really not a whole lot of options here. Hydralisks probably don't make too much sense just because of how quickly they die to Colossus.
Yeah, we saw that a little bit later on as well. Actually, just as First was pushing out towards the base of vIOLet, a whole bunch of Hydras got completely roasted on the left-hand side of the map. And by the time First's army arrived, vIOLet effectively had an all-air army. There was nothing on the ground to actually combat stuff like the Zealots.
Corruptors, as we saw towards the end, work relatively well with those Mutalisks because even though they do not have quite as much range as a Phoenix, they do have base 2 armor, and Phoenixes are doing 5 damage in 2 shots per volley, which means that 2 armor is going to be applied twice. The Corruptors tank a huge amount of damage, allowing the Mutalisks to be much more effective.
Exactly.
So let's see if vIOLet can bring this to a Game 5, or if LGIM's First is going to be able to close it out 3-1. Here to bring you the action, we have Todd and Kalaris.
Thanks, guys. Game number 4. Newkirk City will be the map of choice here as we load up onto GameCube Controller Central and see how this is going to actually play out.
Yeah, and I like the way QXC talked about the previous games. I think he should give a try to Protoss. Listening to his understanding of exactly what happened here with those mutas, I totally agree. vIOLet ended up waiting too much. If you make mutas, you don't try to do any damage until the Protoss finally has 2 Stargate and lots of Phoenixes and Pulse Anion Crystals. You're going to be in a world of trouble, and that's what happened to vIOLet. He tried to make a comeback. He had some nice moves, but in the end, First just too solid to fall for it.
Yeah, so true. First playing phenomenally here, but spawning it down to the bottom left-hand corner, as are Red Zerg. He needs your cheers, guys. He's one game away from ultimate defeat. Give it up for Azubu vIOLet. And spawning down to the bottom right-hand corner here, as are Blue Protoss. One game away from finishing the LGIM Quadra. He goes by the name of First.
And First again here, going for the pylon down his ramp. He's going to scout right after it. He hasn't been mixing it up all that well. I would have liked to see maybe a Nexus first for once. But no, he wants to play it safe. He's up by 1 game. He wants to seal the deal here. He's going to play his best style in this game, which is on Newkirk City. On this map, it feels like you could easily split the map and then basically settle down, go for whatever army composition it is you want to go for and defend easily. But the space around that third base is going to be very open. So you can take a third base a little bit further away, which is going to be up a ramp. But then defending it, you know, it's always going to be pretty far from your natural. Yeah. But remember, this map is only closed by air. Could we see some drop or something innovative here out of vIOLet? We know he likes to play aggressive.
I would love to see some drop play out of vIOLet. And it's a good point that you bring up there. vIOLet, for the entire time of his rise to power, as it were, he was in a very, very aggressive Zerg, going for 1 base, 2 base plays, really making it work out. But you know, as of late, it's been more about the macro here for vIOLet. And again, hitting those mid-game timings for him is absolutely paramount here to deal with First.
Yeah, but the game he won, he was really aggressive. He made it work. He has to do something similar. So obviously, on this map, it's going to be difficult if he reaches his opponent's third base. I think First, every single time on this map, he's going to be able to basically be aware of it and be ready, whereas on Cloud Kingdom, it just wasn't. So vIOLet, he has to make something good happen here, and we're going to see exactly how he tries to do that. He hasn't thrown on a third hatchery just yet. He's going to do it momentarily. He's going to scout all around the place with his Zerglings. He's made only 2 Zerglings, so not going for the 4 here. And First, he's made already 1 gas. He's going to go for the second one just right behind it.
I think for vIOLet, though, he realizes that this is a better map for him, right, than Entombed Valley. Because, you know, the third 4 Protoss is going to be far more open. There's a lot of room in which he can apply pressure there in comparison to Entombed, at least. And we'll see how that actually plans out.
But I liked his idea of going Mutas on Entombed. This is one of the best maps because of that. You can fly into the main, do the expansion. If your opponent goes for Blinkstalkers, you're just going to drive him crazy. You're going to do tons of damage. And it was looking good for him. He had 14 Mutas in position ready to start with the harass. We looked at first unit count. He had almost nothing to really counter this. His only hope was to go for a lot of Phoenixes. But without range, it's going to be very hard to counter those Mutas. So vIOLet, he didn't read the game well here. It's easy for us to see when we're spectating the game exactly what he should do, but he probably thought that First had more Stalkers, maybe some cannons in position. He was ready to use Photon Overcharge, and in the end, that wrong read cost him the game.
And for now, we have First here, spotting out his opponent's third, already spotted his natural, and he has thrown the pylon down in a little bit of an interesting position in his main, just to, you know, eventually have some gateways or any tech that he would like to throw down there. Maybe the Stargate could be the possibility. But for now, actually, +1 is on the way here, as well as Corona boosting out our first few units. And no Mothership core started just yet.
Yeah, he just got enough gas. I think we're going to see a Stargate again, as he's not making a Mothership core. He went for the very quick +1, and he has the trademark probe LGIM hidden out on the map. So we might see a proxy pylon here going down, as the Lynx already missed this. So it's very likely that vIOLet will not be able to find this unless First shows it to him. And we see a lot of gates being made.
5 gate pressure. Is he going to throw down any more? He has the 6 gates are down right now. Any more? Or are we just going to go for a huge gateway push? By the looks of things, 6 gates have been added. So we're up to 7 gates right now here for First. This is going to be very, very strong. But without any gases there for a long time, vIOLet might be able to read into this easily.
Yeah, you should know. If you don't see 2 gases being thrown down by, say, 640 at the latest, you're going to know some big aggression is coming, obviously, because some money had to be spent somewhere.
Oh, he's going to throw them down. Does he actually? I think. Wait, okay. So he didn't throw down the fourth one as well. He took a probe there to make it look like, and he cancels it. I thought this was going to come, and with that now, vIOLet might read it a little bit differently. He does have the Roach Warren on the way. He's getting spores as well, assuming that maybe something a little bit more tech-heavy is coming, but that's not going to be any use against this.
Oh, and first he's going around the Overlord. That's outside his base. The Overlord only saw a Mothership Core heading there. So, I mean, those two Stalkers by the rocks and that one Zealot, if they go to the middle, he's getting rid of the Zergling. That's so smart. And now he's going to go with his units.
Oh, and he's swapped in a lot of units up to the north here. As vIOLet, he does produce a lot of Roaches and Lings, but this is going to get hectic. This Creep Tumor, he's not going to spot them. They're going around the other way. And now he sees all of this aggression coming.
And vIOLet just scouted for proxy panel inside of his base, but it's not inside of his base. And is it too late, Kelaris?
Oh, well, his four Roaches and a lot of Lings actually on the way here. Speed is not just done yet either, as those Zealots, they do have +1 weapons, so they're absolutely shredding up the Zerglings that are powering up against them. But that isn't really going to help out too well. The Queen is almost dead here, but the Roach is blocking very, very nicely against 1 or 2 of those Zealots. Oh, and there goes the Time Warp. Those Roaches aren't going to have an easy time against these Zealots now trying to chase down onto them. The Stalkers need to be in there. They need to be bringing down the Roaches here for first.
And we've seen Grubby before going for a Chimera build. And ended up losing against Stefano, but what he was really lacking in that game was a pylon as close as possible to the attack. And first he's got that, he's got a pylon there, and right now he's crushing vIOLet's units.
Oh god, and he's cutting off good reinforcements as well. Anything that pops at this third instantaneously is dying. vIOLet here trying to rally some Roaches down the back, but there's so many Zealots already tanking for these Stalkers. I think, yes, he has 9 Stalkers out right now to the 11 Roaches, and only a few sprinkling of Zerglings out, and I don't think he even has clear reconstitution at this point. So right now these Roaches are very, very slow, relatively speaking, on this creep. The third does go down here for first. That's a big pickup. And all the Roaches now trying to crush down the Zealots, but it's not going to work out because the Stalker fire is so strong from behind.
And first he keeps on making units here. He's on 7 gates against only 2 hatches. The Queens are going to come in.
The Time Warp lands once again here, and that's going to make it even harder for the Roaches. Clear Reconstitution starts, but I don't think it really is going to be enough in the end of things, as the Zealots are trapped at the back here. First needs to get those to the front. More Stalkers actually piling on forwards here. There's a lot of Zerglings in production, realizing that he's taken down a lot of the Zealot number, and if he can get enough out, he should be able to deal with it, but I don't think that's going to be the case. He pulls the drones. vIOLet knows he's in a lot of trouble, but pulls back for now.
And I think it looks like LGIM here, they're going to secure the first 4 places in this tournament. It does not look like vIOLet has enough to defend here against this attack of first.
There's 12 Stalkers out right now against, and the 7 Zealots against 10 Roaches, 15 Lings, and 38 drones. He has to pull the drones here to tank if he stands any chance of actually surviving this, unless for some reason first lets this go on for too long. But it's 88 supply right now to 76. He's actually supply blocked here. vIOLet is supply blocked. He can't make anything more. He has 500 minerals in the bank, and with all these Roaches dying off here to the Zealots left and right, the drones being pulled off as well. vIOLet is down and out. It looks like the last turn goes out. GG! LGIM's first takes the top 4 spot here, and that means LGIM complete the quadra.
And they will pocket themselves $60,000 in total.
There we go.
It's basically going to be internal practice for LGIM from now.
Yeah, it's an in-house tournament here from now on. Will MVP still be the king here? Or will one of his proteges and contenders be able to dethrone him from that spot? This has been a very, very interesting best of 3. vIOLet and Rhett, as well as somebody else, finish as our top Zerg contenders here at the Intel Extreme Masters World Championship. And it looks like Protoss and Terran are doing pretty good for themselves.
Indeed they are. I'm curious to see exactly how QXC will tell us more about Protoss here, but because that was some very specific game where first tried to surprise the opponent. He ended up doing it, and I think that trademark hidden probe out of the LGIM players finally paid off. We finally saw it working here.
Finally did, finally. So guys, do go tweet at us, at the commentators here, at Kyle Laris and at Todd SC2, with who you think is going to actually take the tournament. There's 4 players left here in the form of first Yonghua, Yoda, and MVP. But for now, we are going to send it over to the stage with Rachel for a little bit of an interview with our winner.
Thank you so much, guys. I wanted to ask you, the game that vIOLet took from you in Game 2, how was it that he caught you by surprise?
바이올렛 선수하고 전체적으로 이겼는데 한 게임 졌을 때 왜 졌었는지 이유가 있다면.
그때 제가 실수로 가스를 못 해갖고 좀 말렸던 것 같아요.
He accidentally forgot to get the gas, and so he had not so many gas for the gas units.
So it seems like when you're playing on top of your game, maybe it's very difficult for Zerg to win. Do you think there are enough options for Zerg to compete with everything that Protoss can do?
엄청 쉽게 이긴 것 같은데 보기로는 저그가 이제 이 군심에서는 프로토스전에서 뭘 해야지 이길 수 있을 것 같은지.
그 좀 어렵긴 한데 아직 지금 군심에서는 저거보다 토스가 좀 더 좋은 것 같아요.
He thinks at this stage of the game, Protoss is a little bit stronger than Zerg, so he doesn't really know.
Well, LGIM was the team that managed to take the GSTL preseason. You guys are all strong Heart of the Swarm players. How proud is your coach right now?
LGIM이 지금까지 다른 토너먼트도 그렇고 이번 토너먼트도 그렇고 성과가 엄청 좋고 결과가 엄청 좋은데 코치님이나 감독님이 얼마나 좋아할 것 같냐고.
아마 많이 좋아하실 것 같고 아무래도 저희가 연습 시간이 많은 것 같은데 아마 연습 시간이 많아서 아마 저희 팀이 성적이 제일 좋지 않나.
Yeah, his coach will be very, very happy about this win, and he thinks it's all about the training. They trained really, really hard at the LGIM Pro House, so.
Well, your training is certainly paying off, like you said. Congratulations to you. Let's take a closer look at that last game against vIOLet.
Thank you very much, Rachel. So it's official. This tournament is now the LG IEM. It's a completely in-house tournament from here, and we have the matchups predetermined from this moment onwards. We have a TVT, a PvP, and then a TVP finals. That is going to be guaranteed at this point.
The one thing that I'm actually a little saddened that it is an LGIM only tournament, because I wonder if at this point the players will be less likely to reveal some of their best strategies. I don't know.
It depends on what the team dynamic is.
Yeah, I don't know enough about the team and Korean culture, but I do know some people in the foreign community who, if it goes to a top 2 finish between teammates, they've already agreed on whatever they're going to do, or they've already decided in their heads that, well, okay, I have very good, very specific strategies that I have not revealed yet, and I have no reason to do so.
But on the other hand, because this is still pre-release Heart of the Swarm, a lot can change. There may well, the actual release of Heart of the Swarm may even be different from the version of the client we're using now. There will undoubtedly be updates to the game, and at that point it's possible that some of these really good strategies won't be able to get used anymore. So that could be an argument for, well, the players might as well just give it all they've got.
I think that's a really good point, and I guess the other thing to counter what I just said, now that I said it, I don't think I'm right, is that just to get to this point, these players have already been using all their best strategies. Yeah. You wouldn't have saved anything up. You don't have a strategy that's like, well, I'm only going to use this if I get to the semifinals. Like, you use it. You use your best strategies from the get-go. So I'm really excited. We're going to see some great games coming up here.
All right, so we're going to be taking a look at that particular game. Now, it started, of course, switching up into a massive gateway attack, but we did have that Overlord Scout where first tried to take the gases to see if he could fake his opponent out. What happened there?
Well, I think vIOLet went in with the Overlord at like the perfect timing to scout gateway pressure. Around 7 minutes, 6:40, 6:45 it was, and he didn't see any gases. He saw 14 to 15 probes. So at this moment, something in vIOLet's mind should have said to him, okay, this is going to be some kind of pressure. This is going to be some kind of attack. And
we can actually see this moment in the replay right now. Guys, if we hop on in here, round about the 6-minute 40-second mark, and this is vIOLet Scout.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So we do see vIOLet coming in, and now he sees that nothing is building at the Nexus, and first like, oh wait, there's an Overlord, let's just start my Mothership Core, just to trick him. He does want the Mothership Core to finish, but I'm not sure if this was the timing that he really wanted to start his Mothership Core in other games. vIOLet should have seen that there was nothing building in the next, and he should have known that this gas was actually a fake.
Why exactly does he know that this gas is a fake? Just because there's so few probes here?
So few probes, no probe production when his Overlord first came in, and quite some Chrono Boost at the Nexus as well, which should indicate that this is some kind of all-in play. To follow this up with, we had a little discussion about the spores.
Yeah.
Mainly QXC, so if you would enlighten us.
Yeah, a little bit. This Spore Crawler, if it had been placed a little bit more aggressively or just a little bit further to the side, would have been more useful in defending the Mothership Core Stalker pressure. And this Spore Crawler perhaps could have been better placed at the front here in the event of potential Dark Templar, or if it's when your opponent's on just 2 gases, if first had gone for some kind of Stargate play, it would have been more of a Stargate 4-gate all-in, and so a Spore Crawler at the front of your base would have been more useful than defending potential harass.
Yeah, completely agree. So this is the start of the battle. vIOLet does know by now that it is an all-in, but he still is producing drones, as we see. I would have loved to see those last 5 drones be 5 roaches, and then the initial battle is going to go so much better for vIOLet. Instead of just those 4 roaches or the 5 that are out now, it would have been 10.
Yep.
And that makes a big difference.
First did a good job. It wasn't totally clear on the mini-map, but this Overlord here, first actually flies past it with his Mothership Core, sees it, and so he brings his Stalkers around. So vIOLet never sees the move out from his base, even though he's got this Overlord here, which seems very aggressively placed. I was also a little confused that vIOLet didn't seem to be checking around his base for proxy pylons. This pylon was down for a long, long time setting up this attack.
Exactly. And if you see a pylon placed like that, you know it's either going to be DTs or gateway pressure.
And back to your point earlier in previous games, of course, about clearing a path and making sure your units can move across the map without someone seeing. That's exactly what First did here with his Mothership Core.
Yes. So First taking some notes of QXC.
Yeah, it was just a really, really well-played game there from First. vIOLet not able to defend it, and as a result, he falls here. So it is an all LGIM Terran and Protoss semifinals. Congratulations to First, and his team have done it as well. But don't forget, guys, one of these players are going to get invited as the champion of the Intel Extreme Masters World Championship to be a VIP at the launch event of Heart of the Swarm on Monday night in France. So big, big invitation there. Hopefully accepted by whoever wins, of course, pending scheduling and stuff like that. Really excited. And also today, we've actually had him in a little bit earlier off camera. David Kim is joining us in Hanover, and he will be giving an interview live before the finals on stream. So another one of those to look forward to as well. For now, though, guys, we're going to be going for a bit of a break before our TVT semifinals. MVP is going to be playing again. What can he do against Yoda? We'll find out after this break. Don't go anywhere.